And we're back for shell scripting basics. This is the way you automate all your network chores if you're a network admin. Okay, what is a shell? Basically, a shell is how you get to the operating system services. It's called a shell because it's the outer layer of the operating system's kernel. Normally runs in the user space with the user permissions. Shells are another example of a REPL. Some more famous examples may include Fortran 4 and BASIC. The original beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code. What happened is that was the original language that everybody's supposed to learn before they learn something like Fortran or COBOL. I saw the source code for BASIC printout. It was about an inch thick, and it was basically a loop that kept on going over and over again and responded to commands, and then you jumped over and did subroutines. Most shells are text-based. You type things into a text window, and your boss comes in. He doesn't know. He has no idea what you're doing, so it looks impressive and makes you look smarter. You can run the shell on your machine. You can reach it out, and you can run it on a remote machine. That's kind of nice if you're a network guy that's in charge of servers. Okay, what is Bash? Bash is a born-again shell. Because it's born again because there originally was a born shell. Okay, Bash is the installed shell program on most non-Windows systems. DOS is the one on Windows. Originally, Windows would run from the DOS shell. You would plug in a Microsoft machine. It would come up to DOS. You'd have this black screen, and you'd have this greater than prompt, and you type Windows in, and away it went. Basic shell commands. Similar but not identical to the DOS commands. dir works in both. Single dot and double dot work in both. When you say rm in bash, you say del for delete in Windows. Anyways, same basic idea. Okay, what is a shell script? A shell script is a bunch of shell commands saved out to be a file. Now, what happens is originally the intent was is you just ran these commands one after another, just like you were typing it in, but people said, hey, why don't we add some control structures? So you have control structures like loops, arrays, and if-then statements and all that good stuff. The neat thing about a shell script is you automate your command line, and not only does that mean you don't have to type it in yourself, that means that you can set up a cron job or a scheduled task and have it run at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're not in the office. You can either call other scripting languages or executables and run them from a shell script. Okay, some examples. DOS menu program. This is what menus used to look like when we were in DOS. Very, very primitive, but they worked. And you had the games on there because there were games on everything because there was no standards for what you were supposed to have and not supposed to have on your computer. I had an application where it had everybody's picture in it. Well, we had like 3,000 people, so you had like 3,000 pictures, and people were always coming in and all that. And like most cases, we had a production instance, we had a test instance, and it would take some time to keep all of the little thumbnail photos synced in the test instance if you wanted to just copy them over. So there is this Windows command line interface called RoboCopy for robust copier that's really neat. It basically is smart enough to go in and copy only the ones that changed. Well, I wrote a DOS DOS shell script on that to where it ran that with the proper parameters so it would only copy over the new ones, and I did it where it did it like at 11 o'clock at night when I wasn't at work. Now another thing is if you develop a console application, that is you develop something that's an executable file with some additional files, you have to copy it down on the workstations, and you would use a shell script to get it there. Okay, how to shell script. Alright, we said text files that contain a series of commands. So if you try the commands out and they work one at a time, they should run as a shell script. You name this with a .sh file name extension to let other carbon-based units, that's us humans, know that it is a script file, that is a shell script file. The OS itself, Linux, doesn't care about the .sh. Okay, any command line you can type in and you can run into the shell script. And to let the shell script know which interpreter to use, you include a shebang. That's this, maybe in an old guy, I call that a pound sign and a exclamation point in the first line of the file. Notice it's shebang bash for bash. Later we'll be studying Perl. It'll be shebang Perl and shebang Python when we get to Python. Okay, file permissions. It says Unix, Linux, Mac OS uses idea of file permissions. Yes, they do. And Windows uses it too, but Windows not nearly as strict. Unix, Linux, Mac OS starts with things locked down. You have to unlock them. Windows starts with things unlocked, and you have to remember to lock them. Okay, use chmod to make executable. I got a little hyperlink there for an explanation. Okay, the particular command you will use the most is chmod 755 your script. Okay, the way you read that, 7 is owner and 7 is all permission, 5 is group, and we have it to read execute. Other is read execute specifically. We don't want anybody else writing to the script or editing our script. To run the script, you go // name of your script, and it should run. And those of you that are coming from a Windows background like I am, don't forget to do a // not a backslash. They're two different things. The computer will not know what you're talking about. You got a good resource here. For Linux permissions, Linux Academy is good for other things too. And we have a list of links. These are additional resources available to you thanks to Dr. Session for this list. And that concludes this presentation.